Nations declared June the 13th as International Albinism Awareness Day. This historic resolution confirmed the global focus on albinism advocacy. A myriad of events are taking place all over the world, but specifically here in South Africa. You've seen her on our screens. She's with the SABC, a social activist, but you also hosted an albinism dialogue. Puleng Molebatsi, welcome to the agenda.
Thank you for having me.
It's so easy to look at someone as yourself, so accomplished and no hindrances to your life, and think there are no issues in this society, but there are.
Yeah, I mean, the world today is celebrating Albinism Awareness Day, so different countries are actually acknowledging people with albinism and celebrating them. But in our country today, we are remembering the lives that were lost, in our continent rather, the lives that were lost of people with albinism simply because they were killed for multi purposes. I mean, some were mutilated, their arms are cut off. I know of people, I've met them. I went to an unveiling of a young man, Kolani Mkize, in Nelspruit, whose body parts were found missing in his grave.
Yeah.
So in March, they came and they cut his legs and arms off.
How are we able to link these mutilations to albinism?
Well, so the belief is that people with albinism, which is very sad, the belief is that people with albinism have special power. There's something supernatural about them. So it's been a myth that has happened for centuries and generations.
Yeah.
But now you find that there is practices which hide under traditional practices, traditional medicine, which at the moment, when I hosted a dialogue, the Traditional Healers Organization in the Nelspruit province said that they don't use body parts. So they will categorize traditional healers who use body parts as something else other than what they are.
We had a story earlier on done by a reporter in Mpumalanga about a child with albinism who was killed for their body parts, and that came out as part of your dialogue. Give us an update on that story. So
on the dialogue, we spoke to Brigadier Leonard Latif, who is a member of the SAPS in the Mpumalanga province, who's working on the case of Gabisile Shabani, the 13-year-old who passed away in February. As we speak right now, the police, he did say that they found most of her body parts, but because they cut her in so many pieces, they haven't been able to find some of the body parts. So they have recovered more. Last time, which was in April, they had just found a jaw and a breast, but they have made more discoveries in terms of finding her body parts as we speak right now.
Puleng, how did the people attending the dialogue respond to such horrific stories?
I also spoke to people with albinism in the Mpumalanga province, and they live in fear. I do get scared sometimes because you don't know who to trust. As it unfolded in the dialogue that I had with Channel Africa, is that there's people who work with people who come outside of South Africa. So people who come into South Africa, they come to your friend, like let's say you're a woman with albinism, and say, would like to cut off Puleng's arm. So it's people that you know that bring them into your house because they promise these people money. But the overall message is that the body parts of people with albinism in Africa, as we speak, they are said to be used for muti. That's why people live in fear.
Yeah. Besides the mutilations, what are other issues that confront this community?
You know what, as I said right now, I want, when we look at Albinism Awareness Day, and albinism is not a marginalized issue only. You know, I am a part of a family which consists of people who are fully pigmented. We are brothers, sisters, cousins, we are employees, we are colleagues. So it's not
to recognize diversity.
Yes, we're not a marginalized community. So whatever is happening in our continent right now affects all of us. It's not something that you should look at as a distant issue.
Let's talk about Puleng, the individual. You know, I mentioned earlier when we started the conversation that on the face of it, everything's going well for you. What drives you to be an advocate and an activist, especially for this particular conversation?
At the moment, it's the 13-year-old Gabisile Shabani who died. She was just sleeping in her house, minding her own business, when two men came in and broke in and took her and killed her for absolutely no reason. So how can you not do anything? How do you sit back and do nothing about issues of people with albinism? And I really want to invite people who are watching, even our government, to start doing something about the killings of people with albinism. Let's move forward. Let's move from just talking about the myths and the abuse, but what are we doing as a continent about these cases of people of albinism being killed? We shouldn't wait for people to die in numbers, then something is being done. So the lawmakers need to really protect and set in place the platforms and things that they can do to protect people with albinism.
Do you think there is a need to recognize them separately, and then in that way be able to kick in those interventions that you're talking about?
Yes. I think people also, so because, I mean, people would say, well, women are being raped, children are being killed, but as we speak, and it's factual, people with albinism are being killed for multi purposes in the African continent. This has been going on for years. What are we waiting for? For people to come and kill us all in Africa, then the government will start taking us seriously and doing something about it. I don't think it's fair that we all call ourselves a united continent, yet we still have marginalized groups which have to deal with their own issues separately when there should be interventions done.
So today is the day. How should other people who are not part of the albinism community recognize this day, and what kind of activities can be carried out in societies to say, we see you and you're part of us?
Let's educate ourselves. Let's move with the times. If you're out there still calling people with albinism leswafi inkawu isishawa, it shows that you're also playing a role in killing and diminishing and dehumanizing people with albinism. Educate yourself. You cannot refer to someone else as a monkey, yet we know that you can't call a human being that. Yet in our languages, people with albinism are still called inkawu, which means a monkey. So if you're still calling people with albinism that, and if you're still teaching your children wrong information about albinism, you are perpetuating the wrongful doings. So educate yourself. Start being proactive in that you also talk about it, and let's try and get our governments and in different countries to start participating and protecting and promoting the rights of people with albinism.
We're talking about events that have taken place in South Africa, but it's also a big problem on the continent.
Yes.
What are the countries that come to mind for you where there needs to be interventions?
Well, a few months ago, a young girl from Mali was attacked. She was just 5 years old, and it's an ongoing syndicate, where they look at you walking on the street and then they plot on the side. And these are things that you read about and you feel sad for a few seconds, but after that, there is a human being that's been killed. There is a life, the innocent life that's been killed. So we really need to protect our children who are living with albinism. And if in the dialogue that I recently had, I asked the SAPS, and I said, so if as a person with albinism, if someone calls me their lucky charm, that for me is a wrongful speech. You can't refer to me as your lucky charm, because as we speak, people are dying because of utterances such as that. So Malawi are looking at holding people accountable. If you refer to someone with albinism as a lucky charm or your lotto ticket, you can get arrested for that. And these are things that we need to start looking at and putting laws in place, that people cannot be referring and talking to people like this.
It's shocking that people are still being killed, but thank you so much for talking to us. Puleng Molebatsi is a social activist and host of the Albinism Report as we mark World or International Albinism Awareness Day. Now, Democrats